So, you guys are going to notice a really big shift in my content on here because I'm moving away from posting song covers and towards posting video essays and vlogs. Don't worry, because I will continue to post covers when inspiration strikes, but my channel is going to become more multifaceted from now on. If you follow me pretty much anywhere else, then you will have noticed just how much of my brain space is occupied by this story by the name of Bungou Stray Dogs. This is what I'm mostly going to be posting on here for a while because I've been doing these short 3-minute analysis videos on TikTok for about 2 months now. I mostly talk about character design, but I've started covering everything from plot points to comparisons between different media types. The coat or outerwear that a character is wearing, especially if it's really different to the rest of their outfit, is indicative of the persona that they're trying to project. Akutagawa and Dazai's relationship is similar to Atsushi and the director's relationship, just like you said.
I didn't think I was going to be able to forgive Bone Studio for turning this into that.
A lot of the time when authors are depicting a mentally ill character, it'll be someone who doesn't like going out a lot, someone who doesn't have many friends, someone who's essentially the polar opposite of Dazai. And a lot of people on there have said that they would love to see me do a more in-depth analysis, so that's exactly what I plan to do on here. This is mostly because I have lots to say on the topic, but it's really difficult to do an in-depth analysis when you only have 3 minutes. You know me though, I can't just launch into an entirely new story without giving you guys a little bit of background first. So that's exactly what I'm gonna do here. But before we begin, if you like my content, there are a couple of ways you can support me so that I can make more. The first, of course, is to like these videos and subscribe to my channel. The second is to click on the first link in the description box below, which will take you to a website called Ko-fi. Ko-fi is sort of like a GoFundMe site that doesn't take any fees, where you can buy your favorite creators a coffee. As you all know by now, I've recently come out and changed my name. The next step for me is something that I've wanted to do for years, and that is to get top surgery. I'm saving for it as much as I possibly can while working a part-time job and also keeping up with other important expenses, but it is unfortunately really expensive. So my first goal through Ko-fi is to try and raise enough to help me get this surgery. Now, of course, I don't expect anyone to send me anything, but every little amount is helpful. You can send as little as $1 Australian, and if everyone who follows me on TikTok sent in that minimum amount, I would be able to afford this surgery twice over. I am so grateful to everyone who has sent me something so far, and so grateful to everyone who has subscribed or followed me on any of my other socials, because you guys give me a reason to keep on talking about the things that I love, and I really, really appreciate it. And I will, of course, gather as much information about the process of going through top surgery, because I have seen heaps of information about it, but 99% of it is from an American source or from an Australian who has got a mastectomy or a breast reduction, and they're two completely different surgeries. Now, if you can't afford to send money but you do want to help me financially, then you can share my Ko-fi page. I have already made a couple of posts about it on my other accounts, so you can just repost those as well. And I am thinking about creating some kind of reward for my monthly top contributors, but I don't really know what to do, so if you can think of anything that you would like, let me know in the comments. These videos take a really long time to make because I do all of the scripting, filming, editing, and captioning myself. So again, any and all support is very much appreciated. Now, onto the video. Bungou Stray Dogs, which translates to Literary Stray Dogs, is a story created by Kafka Asagiri that began serialization in Kadokawa's Young Ace magazine in 2012. Asagiri doesn't draw the manga himself, but he has multiple artists who help him to work on different versions of the story, which I will get into later. Bungou Stray Dogs, which I will from now on refer to as BSD, is a seinen, meaning that its target audience are people aged between 18 and 40 years old. This is your warning that this story is not for kids. In fact, I wouldn't recommend it for anyone under the age of 16. It deals with some heavy themes such as suicide, trauma, PTSD, anxiety, depression, and a myriad of other dark issues. And though other shows that are aimed towards a younger audience can deal with these topics, Bungou Stray Dogs does not do it in a child-friendly way. If any of these issues affect you, then I suggest you click off this video because I will be mentioning them quite a lot. All of that being said, BSD does present itself as a really light-hearted story. And the premise goes something like this. Set in Yokohama, a bustling port city in southeast Japan, our story begins at the end of Atsushi Nakajima's life. Having been ejected from the orphanage that he grew up in, Atsushi is debating whether to abandon his morals and steal from someone so that he can afford to eat. This is when he sees a strange man floating down the river, and against his better judgment, he saves his life. That man is Dazai Osamu, and he seems rather put out that Atsushi saved him from his suicide attempt. He decides to thank him anyway, and together with his business partner Dapuku Nikita, they treat Atsushi to lunch. Atsushi quickly discovers that these two strange men are detectives, but not just any detectives. You see, in this world there exists a subsection of people who are known to have supernatural abilities. And in Yokohama there lies a business that employs these people. Dazai and Konakita belong to this business, the Armed Detective Agency, which handles cases that are deemed too difficult or dangerous for the police. Currently, they're investigating a man-eating tiger that has been terrorizing the city, the same tiger that Atsushi has been trying to escape the clutches of. And so, our story begins with Atsushi's life not only being saved, but changed forever. Now, if all of that wasn't overwhelming enough, there is another huge aspect to this story that fans of Japanese literature may have picked up on, and that is that these characters are named after famous authors. In an interview released in 2013, Asagiri said that he wanted to write a story that personifies great writers as handsome guys. He says all the literary giants have distinctive characteristics, you know, and there are many cases where not only the novels but also the people who wrote them are interesting. The goal of BSD was to take these authors' personifications and their works, then mash them together to create characters in this world. To give you a bit of an idea, let's talk about two of the most prominent characters and their abilities and the authors and works that they are based on.
今夢に挑戦してるんだよ。夢。私ほどの人間になるとマシュマロになりたくなるんだよ。なるほど。
Dazai Osamu is famous for his first-person semi-autobiographical works which emphasize the darkness of self. He attempted suicide many times before finally succeeding on his third attempt just days before his 39th birthday. In BSD, Dazai is an eccentric suicide maniac. He is chillingly clever, but his blasé personality and happy-go-lucky attitude tend to throw people off. His special ability is a nullification skill. He can stop or reverse another person's ability by simply touching them. Asagiri chose nullification for Dazai on purpose. He says, when you read Dazai, you gradually lose your reason to live. It is like everything is sucked away from you. That's why I chose nullification, an anti-battle skill. Like most other abilities, Dazai's skill is named after his most famous work, which in this case is no longer human. Another important character is named after Ryunosuke Akutagawa, who is hailed as the father of Japanese short story and the namesake of Japan's most esteemed literary prize. His BSD ability, Rashomon, transforms his clothing into a demon-like monster that is capable of destroying anything and everything in its path, including space itself. It's named after a short story wherein a young boy struggles with whether or not he should steal in order to avoid starvation. And I can hear you saying, hang on, that sounds exactly like the beginning of BSD. I will be talking a lot about how Akutagawa and Atsushi are flip sides of the same coin, but I won't get too deep into it for now. Now, of course, there are many other characters that I could talk about, but I want to avoid making this video any longer than it needs to be. For anyone wondering, my favorite characters are Chuya, Akutagawa, Gin, and Tachihara, and my favorite characters to analyze are Dazai, Chuya, Atsushi, and Akutagawa. Before we move on though, I want to make something really clear. When I discuss the characters in BSD, I am not at all associating them with the authors that they are named after. I may mention the author's works if they're relevant to the discussion, much like I did just before, but it's really important to remember that these characters are merely personifications of the real authors. There's nothing wrong with drawing on outside sources to make an analysis, but I just want to be super clear that if I say something like Fyodor Dostoevsky is a murderer and a piece of I am in no way referring to the real Fyodor Dostoevsky.
The first lesson in taking a jab is you slap him and say, as if, bruh.
Something that people on TikTok ask me all the time is, how should I start getting into BSD? Which is a really good question because there is so much content for this story, it can be really overwhelming. You have manga, anime, stage plays, movies, light novels, and audio dramas. And these are split even further. The manga has 5 parts: the canon or the main story, Beast, 1, Dead Apple, and Dazai Chuya 15, which is currently being released. A new chapter of the canon manga is released on the 2nd of every month, and currently there are 107 chapters plus 17 bonus or mini chapters. The anime currently consists of 4 seasons, with season 5 coming out in July. Season 1 covers episodes 1 to 12, season 2 episodes 13 to 24 with bonus episode 25, season 3 episodes 26 to 37, and season 4 episodes 38 to 50. There are 2 movies, Dead Apple, which is animated, and Beast, which is live action, and 8 stage plays depicting the Port Mafia arc, Dazai's entrance exam, the Dark Era, 3 Companies conflict, Dazai Chuya 15, Dead Apple, Stormbringer, and the Cannibalism arc. There are a couple of audio drama CDs and bonus tracks, as well as mini albums of the songs included in the anime, and currently there are 9 light novels: Osamu Dazai's entrance exam, Osamu Dazai in the Dark Era, The Untold Origins of the Detective Agency, The Gaiden, 55 Minute, Dead Apple, Dazai Chuya 15, Beast, and Stormbringer. Now, you are going to be relieved to know that out of all of that, there is only one thing that you really need to read if you want to understand the story, and that is the the canon manga. Think of everything else, the bonus stories and the alternate universes, as a way to enrich your understanding of what's going on in the actual story. I started BSD by watching the anime, which I would honestly recommend doing because once you read the manga, you realize that the anime skips out on a lot of small but vital details. Sometimes they totally change the storyline and it can be really frustrating if you've already read what happens. But otherwise it is a really decent adaptation. I think the soundtrack, the animation, the voice actors, everything is really well done. There are people out there who want me to tell them exactly how you should consume all this content, so here is what I would suggest. Start with the anime. Watch season 1, then the Dead Apple movie, then seasons 2, 3 and 4. Once you've done that, I would highly recommend that you start reading the manga from chapter 1 onwards, but if you want to start where the anime left off, you can start at chapter 77. Once you have finished at least season 1 of the anime or read at least from chapter 1 to 14, you can start branching out and looking at other stories. That's because season 1 and chapter 1 to 14 introduce all of the really important characters of the story, and you're going to have a decent understanding of how the world works as well. Now, the light novels are all set at completely different points in time, so it doesn't super duper matter when you read them. If you want to read the ones that have been animated first, start with these: Osamu Dazai's Entrance Exam, Osamu Dazai and the Dark Era, The Untold Origins of the Detective Agency, Dead Apple, and Dazai Chuya 50. If you want to read them in chronological order, try this instead. Start with The Untold Origins of the Detective Agency, then Dazai Chuya 15, then Stormbringer, then Osamu Dazai and the Dark Era, Osamu Dazai's Entrance Exam, and finally 55 minutes. It's not really clear when Dead Apple or the Gaiden take place in the timeline. Dead Apple is the only novel not written by Asagiri, and it's an adaptation of the movie rather than the other way around. And the Gaiden tells a story of completely different characters. Most people agree that it happens between the Dark Era and Dazai's Entrance Exam, so if you wanted to keep it chronological, you could probably read it then. Beast is set in an alternate universe, so it doesn't really matter if or when you read it. I would highly recommend it though, because it gives us a really interesting look into characters' true motives and personalities. Beast also exists as a short 4-volume manga, and it is beautifully illustrated, so I cannot recommend it more. And it's also the live-action movie which actually stars the stage play actors. Then One is a cutesy spin-off which exists both as a manga and as an anime. You can read or watch it whenever you like once you've finished chapter 14 or the first season, because it's just a bunch of short stories that take place at all random points in the timeline. Be warned though, because while it is mostly cute, it does still contain the dark themes that I mentioned earlier, and these will sneak up on you when you least expect it. I have cried over this cute little story more than once. And finally, you can listen to the audio dramas or watch the stage plays whenever you'd like as well. I would recommend that if you are going to watch the stage play of Stormbringer, for example, that you read the Stormbringer novel beforehand, just so that it's easier for you to follow along. I haven't watched any of the stage plays yet because they are a bit more difficult for you to get your hands on, especially if you don't live in Japan, but I have read the novels and the manga that they're based off of, so I can usually piece together what happens by looking at photos that people upload online. Really, there is no right or wrong way to get into BSD, but this is what I would suggest for anyone who wants a bit of a guideline. And a lot of people assume that because these characters are based off of real authors, that you should read the author's works in order to get a better understanding of what happens. But this is absolutely not the case. Like I said before, there is nothing wrong with using outside sources to get a better understanding of a piece of media, but if classic novels and poetry aren't your forte, don't even worry about it. You don't even need to read summaries to be able to understand what happens in BSD. That being said, there are sometimes hints hidden in the author's real works, and sometimes there are inside jokes scattered throughout the story. For example, there's this scene where Dazai is looking at a picture that was painted by the real Dazai Osamu. I am trying to read as many of these novels and poetry as I can, just because I find it really interesting, and I've always been someone who wanted to get into classic literature, and BSD is a really great motive for that. I may even end up talking a bit about these works if that's something that you guys are interested in. Now, I did mention before that there are several artists involved in drawing BSD. Sango Harakawa draws the canon manga and the illustrations for the light novels. They're also responsible for the original character designs. Ganji drew the illustrations for the manga and light novel adaptation of Dead Apple. Neko Kanai draws the BSD1 manga, and Shiwasu Hoshikawa draws the Beast manga. Hoshikawa is also drawing the manga adaptation for Dazai Chuya 15. Alternate universes play a huge role in BSD, and it's really cool to see multiple artists working on these different adaptations. Different art styles also help to draw attention to important aspects of each story. For example, Kanai's artwork really draws on its lightheartedness, and Hoshikawa's is really dark and busy. This makes makes it a little harder to pass out details in this manga, but it's perfect for drawing action sequences such as the fight scenes in Beast. The art style in the anime is that of Bone Studio, which is kind of infamous for its turtle smiles and its fisheye effects. Lots of people really dislike the animation style, but I honestly find it charming. Like I said before, the only bone that I really have to pick with the animation, no pun intended, is that they sometimes change the story around.
最強の結び方があるのか。やはりここはもやい結びだな。結びの王と呼ばれている。の結びの王。あとはやはりイングリッシュマフィンとか。イングリッシュマフィン。そんな結び方があるのか。嘘だけどね。万年筆バキッ。おい、降りて。降りて。万年筆が降りて。国木田君の大好きな万年筆が折れた。お前の心はいつ折れるんだ。万年筆買ってもらうからな。
If you've made it this far, thank you so much for watching. This video was just a brief introduction to a topic that I'm going to be discussing much more in depth in later videos. If you've never heard of this story, whether you're into animangas or not, I really hope that this has piqued your interest enough for you to check it out. And if you're already a fan of BSD, then I hope this video did it justice and you're looking forward to the upcoming analyses. I've left a bunch of useful links in the description, including my Ko-fi page, socials, and a bunch of other really cool websites for BSD. As I was researching, I found that the official Crunchyroll account has uploaded the first episode of BSD on YouTube entirely for free, so definitely go check that out if you're thinking about watching it. And if you have any questions or ideas of things you'd like to see in this series, then please let me know in the comments. While BSD is going to be my main focus for a while, I would love to make videos like this about other stories as well. So if you'd like to see what I'm currently working on, you can check out my Notion, which is also linked below. Give this video a like if you wanna, that would mean a lot to me. Subscribe if you wanna, that would also mean a lot to me. And I'll see you all in the next one. Bye!
ている意味は確かめ合いながら進めるように名前を呼ぶよあなたの名前をあなたがあなたで
Deciding what to put in the video is the next issue. Maybe... oh my god. Yeah. These videos take a really long time to make because I do all of the editing, scripting. These videos take a really long time. And I'll see— Chia! You're supposed to defy gravity, sir. This is so hard. I just want them to balance. And bye!